Who wins the championship in today's game? Nash and Dirk Nowitzki or Chris Paul and Kevin Garnett?
Now, as long as there's no injuries, I think it's so obvious that it's KG and Chris Paul. When you just think about what both of those guys can bring to the court, obviously KG, super two-way guy. I honestly think he gets kind of underrated as an all-time great because he did win a championship in '08 with the Celtics, and that wasn't technically his prime. But when you just go back to his Minnesota days, he was most certainly one of the best players in the league. Obviously, he won an MVP. And then you look at Chris Paul, and obviously injuries are a big concern. But I think barring injuries, if we're just assuming that these duos are going to be healthy no matter what, I just think the pairing of Chris Paul and KG is just going to be better because they're both two-way guys and they both can do their thing on the offensive end. And I think they can carry the load on that end. And everyone on this panel kind of agrees with that, except for Mr. Ticket TV himself. Here is the most misinformed and delusional NBA fan I personally think I've ever seen. Let's see why he believes Dirk and Nash is actually the answer.
First of all, the choke artist himself, Chris Paul, in his prime, out of his prime, at the end of his prime, not going to work. And then Kevin Garnett, let's keep it real. He couldn't do what Dirk did, so cut it out. He couldn't lead his own team to the chip. Dirk stayed in Dallas and led his own team to the chip. Hold on.
On what team?
On
what
team? So let's get this right. Hold on.
What team?
So let's get this right. Chris Paul has no MVPs. Nash has 2. Okay? Nash took his team to the Western Conference Finals. Should have went to the NBA Finals. We know they got cheated that game against when they all got suspended and stuff. Cool, no problem. He got to the Western Conference Finals. But Dirk Nowitzki been to the finals multiple times off his back. KG couldn't take a team to the finals in the West until he went to the East. Cut it out. It's easy work. Dirk had an equal or lesser team and won the chip.
Let's not.
What?
Dirk had an equal than KG that year or lesser team and won the chip.
Quickly, before we discuss KG not being able to lead his team to an NBA Finals, I just want to say bringing up that Nash has 2 MVPs literally means nothing in this conversation because if we're assuming that Nash and Dirk are going to be on the same team, I think it's safe to say that Dirk would win MVPs over Nash, if we were going to have a conversation about who that MVP of the team is. So honestly, that doesn't even matter, and I don't even know why we're bringing that up as well. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, to say that KG wasn't able to lead his team to a finals, in my opinion, is just wrong. It's just factually wrong. I know people don't want to admit this, but KG has a very strong argument to be the best player on that '08 Celtics team that won. Sure, Paul Pierce was the leading scorer of the team, and he did win Finals MVP when they got to the finals, averaging around 22 points per game. But in the regular season, Kevin Garnett only averaged 1 less point than Paul Pierce, and he won the Defensive Player of the Year that season. So to me, I think you can make an actual strong case for Kevin Garnett to be the best player on that team, not only because of what he was able to do on the offensive end, being the second leading scorer of the team, but obviously he won the Defensive Player of the Year, so he was the best defender in the league, despite him not technically being in his prime. With that being said, though, TicketTV is actually talking about Garnett in his time in Minnesota. And can we please just acknowledge the fact that for majority of Garnett's time with Minnesota, the front office just didn't do a good job with surrounding him with talent. They got bounced out of the first round 7 times, count that 7 times in a row. And it wasn't until that very last season after the 7 in a row, when they were able to get better players, that Garnett was actually able to lead them to the conference finals. You had players like Sam Cassell, who was averaging almost 20 points a game, and then you had Latrell Sprewell, who was a nice 3-and-D sort of guy, but also, a solid scorer. When you compare Dirk's 2011 finals team to that '04 Timberwolves team with Garnett, I think it's just obvious that the Mavs had more help. So I would hope that Dirk would at least make it farther in the playoffs, which he did. So good for Dirk.
Remember, his second best player was hurt and didn't play in the finals.
To be fair, Caron Butler was good in his 29 games that he did play, averaging about 15 points a game. But you can't be the second best player if you only played 29 games. And even I would make the argument that there's 2 other guys on this team, Jason Terry and Tyson Chandler, who had more of an impact in terms of the Mavs winning, just seen throughout the entire season, that even if Caron Butler stayed healthy that entire season, I would still believe Jason Terry or Tyson Chandler were the second best players. Jason Terry averaged more points than Caron Butler that season. And again, Caron only played 29 games, and Tyson Chandler played an all defensive level on that side of the floor. So to me, that just is the reason why they're better than him. But look what he has to say about that. This is really interesting right here.
Why was he better than Jason Terry?
Bro, pull it up.
Why?
For what?
Pull it up.
Why?
Who got the better resume, him or Jason Terry?
Huh?
Jesus
What?
Christ. Okay.
We cannot be serious right now. Why does the resume of someone's career matter when we're talking about one season? One season, we're just talking about 2011, the 1 year that the Mavs won the championship. Why does it matter what Caron Butler did 5 years before? And why are we comparing him to other players who, honestly, I mean, if we want to talk about who had a better career, it's not like Caron Butler had this huge, amazing career to the point where it's like, oh, Jason Terry, is ass, right? Like we can't just do that. And if we're gonna use this argument, it's almost like Ticket has forgotten Jason Kidd is on this roster. So if we really want to make this argument about the resume, it's so obviously Jason Kidd is the second best player. So I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing about this? This makes no sense. And we know Jason Kidd can't be the second best player on this team. And you want to know why? It was because he was 37 years old, averaging like 8 points a game. Just stop. This is dumb.
Oh, hold on, time out. Which big three was better? Dirk, Jason Terry, and Caron Butler? Or KG in his prime, Latrell Sprewell, and Sam Cassell?
Now here is when the title of misinformed comes into play. He wants to bring up that Caron Butler was injured in that 2011 series, which is totally fine to me. But he's bringing up Sam Cassell in this big three with Garnett, which is fine, but he's also failing to recognize that in the Western Conference Finals, when the Minnesota Timberwolves played the Lakers, Cassell did not play. Hey guys, future Alex here. I don't know why I said that he didn't play because I knew he did play. He just only played 16 minutes a game and he only averaged about 9 points, and it was because he was playing through injury. So I don't know why I said that he didn't play, because he did. So if I continue to say it throughout this video, don't listen to past Alex. He was going off script and he was not thinking about what he was saying. So yeah, back to the video. And you want to know why? It was because he was injured. And other than Latrell Sprewell and Wally Szczerbiak, the Timberwolves didn't really have any other players scoring in double figures. And again, they played the Lakers and they still went to 6 without Sam Cassell, their second best player, who was averaging almost 20 points a game. They still went to 6 games. That is crazy to me. I swear people just forget how great Kevin Garnett was just because he won the chip in Boston. I think that's a huge reason behind it. And honestly, I can't think of another player, I guess, except for Ray Allen, which is actually kind of funny because they both played with each other. He has such a great career in his first half, but then obviously he goes to the Celtics and that's when he wins. And that seems to be the only thing people remember like fully. But Sam Cassell was injured. So if we want to bring up that Caron Butler was injured, that is fine, but you also have to do it for Sam Cassell. It's only fair. And then again, he keeps bringing up this big three. I didn't think we were calling a Dirk, Jason Terry, and Caron Butler a big three. I really didn't. I thought that was reserved to the LeBrons, Bosh, and Wades. But I mean, if we're going to call that a big three, that's pretty pathetic as well. Even a big three of Kevin Garnett, Sam Cassell, and Latrell Sprewell is hilarious. And again, Sam Cassell was great that season, but he's not this all-time great. I just thought the big threes label was meant for, all-time players. Also, I always think it's strange when we use big three versus big three, because that's not how the game of basketball is played. The game of basketball is played 5v5 and it's a team sport. So especially in this argument, when we're comparing talent on a team, you have to look at the whole team. You can't just look at the top three, because if you look at the top three, it's okay, you can say it's evenly matched, but then you keep going down and down the roster and it's just so obvious and clear that the Mavericks had a better roster in 2011 than the Timberwolves did in 2004.
Chris Paul was up in the Western Conference Finals, couldn't get it done.
Yeah, it's
Chris
a lot.
Paul,
But
we
okay,
see Chris Paul blown 3-2 leads. So listen, okay, cool. Him and Steve Nash, they disqualify each other. All right. So now I'm looking at Dirk and Kevin Garnett. And what did I say to Legend of Losing? I said, Legend of Losing. I said, bro, I'm rolling with Dirk because I seen Dirk do what KG couldn't do, and he had a lesser team than KG had at their best.
And you're lying.
He is lying. He's lying a lot. Again, Dirk had Jason Terry, who was averaging 16 points per game that season. He also had Sean Marion, who, yes, wasn't in his prime, but was still offering 10 points a game and some pretty good defense. Tyson Chandler also made the all-defensive second team that season, and they had JJ Barea, Peja Stojakovic, and Jason Kidd on that team as well. The Mavs just had talent that the 04 Timberwolves did not have at all. So to criticize Kevin Garnett for not making the finals is just so dumb, especially because he didn't have the talent. And even when he had some sort of talent on his team, as soon as he lost one of them, he wasn't able to move on to the finals. And let's go back to Ticket's original point from when we started in the video. He was going to choose Dirk simply because Dirk had a ring and he saw Dirk get through the mud. KG also has a ring. I understand that he got it with the Celtics and not the Timberwolves, but again, like I said before, I think there's a strong argument you can make that he was the best player on that team, even if he didn't win the Finals MVP. And in his prime, when he was on the Timberwolves, if Kevin Garnett had the talent that Dirk had by his side, I honestly think he would have won a chip in Minnesota. And if we're just looking at that 04 season, I think there's no doubt in my mind that, either with more talent or at least with Sam Cassell on that roster and being healthy, I think you could make the case that they could have gotten past the Lakers. That was the Lakers team that had Gary Payton and Karl Malone added on top of Kobe and Shaq. And obviously we saw what happened to them in the finals. But, again, the series went to 6. It was still very close. If you add a 20-point per game score on that, I think you can make a really strong case that the Timberwolves could have possibly won. And if not, at least went to 7. And that of its own is a feat that I don't think a lot of players can say they did, was to go 7 games against Shaq and Kobe and Karl Malone and Gary Payton. And that's why that Pistons team that eventually beat the Lakers was loved, because they weren't expected to win that series. Hey man, shout out to Ticket and everyone over at Player's Choice. I love watching their shows. At the end of the day, this is just basketball. I thought this was a crazy argument. I love kind of the debate nature of their show, and I just figured I would give my 2 cents on it as well. I'll make sure to put the link in the description of this video from where I got it, so you guys can check out the rest of this conversation, because this goes on for about 30 more minutes, but it's more just kind of going back and forth. These were just the main points that I thought were kind of dumb from Ticket, but at the end of the day, again, it's just basketball. So shout out to Ticket, man. He's super passionate. I know the title may seem a little bit harsh, but hey, man, it's that clickbait, baby. If you like the video, make sure you guys like and sub. I'm trying to hit 100 subs by the end of the year, so I'd really appreciate it. In the description is also all of my socials, to my Twitter and my TikTok, and I also have a YouTube channel where I've been posting my podcast, so you guys should go check that out as well if you're interested. You can also watch this video somewhere on the screen where I go over 4 trades that could happen this season. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.